I'm tired of watching shadows bleed, fighting for nothing but a need. The seventh fall is on my knees. Let sighs and secrets cover me.
Welcome. You're listening to Mystic Moon Cafe Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe Radio. This is June, and I have the amazing and lovely Wendy with me.
That would be me.
Woohoo!
Hello.
So glad that you're with us. Exactly.
You and me both.
Oh man,
That was a bit touch and go there, but it's okay.
Wendy had a very harrowing experience, and but she is fine now. But just saying that I'm glad she's with us.
Yes.
Everything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that vote of confidence.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to take a moment to apologize for last week's show.
Whoopsie.
I had some major technical difficulties and no one could hear me, so still can't figure out what's going on. Jake is actually around the world right now. I think he's in Rome today.
I believe so. We caught a picture of him eating pasta and sitting outside of something.
I think the Colosseum. I think he had just gone to the Colosseum in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was sitting outside drinking, it looked like some sort of beer,
Yes,
and having some pasta and enjoying life right now. Sigh.
Right.
Sigh.
I went and got a pizza in his honor,
Did you really?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yes. But he should be, I think he's going to be back with us next week. I think he will be back, but I'm not sure how long he's going to be on. I forgot to ask that question.
Right. I believe it was last week and this week that he was going to be gone. So,
Awesome.
Yep, we will have our third compadre, and the three amigos will be out there tearing up the airwaves.
Yes, as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
After I take my ibuprofen and put my, Asper cream on.
Yeah. I
maybe,
take the Tylenol and leave,
yeah.
so.
Yes. My doctor just told me I am not supposed to be taking, ibuprofen anymore, so said I'm getting a woman of your age. What the hell does that mean?
And what are you trying to say?
Just gave me that look of, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Here, let me bite you.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
My false teeth. Damn it.
Wait a minute. I got a dog with inch-long eye teeth on him.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
Yes. Now, that would not be Augie, because he's worn his down with different various balls and toys and what have you they act like a pacifier. But Dakota has massive teeth.
Really? Ooh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The better to smile at you with.
I bet. Oh, so sweet. But yes, I was going to say this last weekend, our group had an investigation in Leavenworth, Washington. Now, Leavenworth, Washington is a lot different than your Leavenworth, Kansas. Just saying.
Oh, well.
Leavenworth, Kansas has the prison. And that's like the biggest Leavenworth. As soon as you say Leavenworth, everybody thinks of the prison.
The federal prison, yes.
Yes, the federal prison there. Actually, Leavenworth, Washington is this cute little German town that is in the mountains. And everything has to look like gingerbread, kind of the gingerbread bric-a-brac everywhere with the little Bavarian, it's just really adorable because every single gas station, bank, every place has to look like that. So they all have to have the same, bric-a-brac with the little, German paintings on the side or, little filigree. Oh, it's just really adorable, really cute place.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we had an investigation in a house that was just off the main area of town. So that was really, really cool. We had a really fun time. The owner was gone and just let us, stay there, and it was really fun. So
nice, very cool.
Had some interesting things happen too. So it's like, ooh. Yes. Yes.
I believe I've seen the pictures of Leavenworth before that you've posted, and it is just cute as you can ever imagine.
Yeah, we just absolutely love it. It's about a 2.5 hour drive from Seattle. So it's not too bad, but you have to drive through the mountains, which kind of stinks. So I don't like to do it except for the summertime, because even in the spring and fall, it can snow up in the mountains, and so
sure.
Yeah, so it's not very fun. But yeah, but let me tell you one of the things that happened.
Please do.
So we had a lot of strange things happen. Like we had a closet door close on us that had absolutely no reason for closing whatsoever, because there's no spring in the door or anything like this. It just closed. So that was kind of strange. A few other little weird things on and off happened. But the morning, we started getting ready to go. We're packing up, we're getting all our stuff ready to head back to Seattle, when all of a sudden their old rotary phone just started to ring. Well, not just rang once and then nothing. And it did it again, rang once, nothing. Then it rang twice, and you pick it up, there's just a dial tone. So we're like, okay, it's kind of strange, who's calling on a Sunday morning? And so, but you think, it's probably somebody, maybe they're getting the wrong number, or maybe something strange is happening, blah, blah, blah. So
yeah, something.
Ross says, okay, so if this is somebody here at the house that wants us to stay, ring once. And as soon as he said that, it rang.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, as soon as he said it. And it wasn't timed or anything else, because we kind of checked to see when, it would just dial in. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, hey, if you, we're going to have to leave, but if you want us to come back, ring again. And bang, rang again. So
holy cow.
I was like, I don't know if, if you can check the phone records, because to see who called, without answering the phone, it's like when somebody was on the other line, to see if it connected. Mm-hmm. If that's the only way that you can find out records of who called, but that was pretty interesting. So I don't know, but it was cool. It was really cool. It was a really fun time. We played some games before. We started the investigation. Some spooky board games and everything. So, but I love things like that. So it was a lot of fun. But,
oh, sure.
But anyway,
anyway,
I was going to get over here on Skype and go ahead and dial in our.
Okay, you can unshare our screen if you want to as well.
Oh, you don't want to keep seeing my screen?
Well, we can, because it's off in a little itty bitty square in the corner, but.
Okay, I see. Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, well, let me see. How can I add him to our call? Why don't you go ahead and say something?
Okay.
Figure this out.
Right. I apologize for not being on last week with June when she was having all of these darn problems. I had a little dog sitting gig and then a little brief run-in with the Grim Reaper, which, hey, I won because I am not an EVP tonight.
Yay! Thank goodness.
And
yes.
And so I'm catching up here at home, and golly, I've actually, honest to goodnessly. Ooh, okay. June, I'm going to add Matt to our call.
Please do, because I don't know what's wrong with me.
Okay. Oh, we may have missed him. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Hi.
Hi. What's going on?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was listening to the show. Mm-hmm. And I heard that you were trying to call me, so I decided to beat you to the punch, I guess.
Woohoo!
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, I'm having so much technical difficulties with this. It's really embarrassing, but we won't even go into that.
Hey, it happens,
I know. Sometimes these things do happen.
June has the eternal something's in retrograde. I'm not sure what. It might be Pluto, the dog star there.
Yeah, the dog star Pluto. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's really sad. But before we bring you on, why don't Wendy and I read your your little bio or your little description here.
Okay.
And
I'm not sure which one you have, so I'm on the
before
edge
we
of
get
my
started. Okay. Woohoo!
Well, this was from Pornhub. I hope that's okay.
Fantastic. It's all the truth. It's all true. Every bit of it.
Woohoo!
Dang.
Okay. Sorry, Wendy.
Well, I'm impressed.
Yes. Okay, well, why don't I start off reading it? Wendy, if you want to read the second one, just in case, if your eyes are doing
you have
good.
more than one. How about that?
Yes.
Oh, great. I get around. But you knew
do
that
get
already
around.
because of Pornhub.
That's what it said in the bathroom.
Yes, I was going to say that's what I read on the bathroom walls. Ooh. I took notes. Anyway, let me start by saying Matt has always had an appreciation for the extraordinary, and after a decade of investigating with A.P.R.A, that's the American Paranormal Research Association, he's no stranger to the dark, unnerving, and often misunderstood aspects of the paranormal. His investigative interests have taken him on both an inner and outer journey through meditation and the study of different belief systems. Using the scientific method is key to delivering solid evidence and is the foundation upon which A.P.R.A completes its work. This is the critical why Matthew believes A.P.R.A is to be the forefront of investigative research. With A.P.R.A, he has also specialized in investigating historical properties and conducting fundraising events in which the public can learn the various techniques that make the team such a respected name in the field.
Matt is a lead investigator for APRA, and in the beginning, having lived in a haunted home in early childhood, Matt Goldman has always had an appreciation for the extraordinary. He has spent his life investigating the spiritual and supernatural. Wandering into old dwellings and haunted locations, walking miles, drumming with Buddhist monks, meditating and recording dreams, he has sat in the Native American sweat ceremonies, fasted, and gone to great lengths to have first-hand experiences. Surprisingly, because of his experience, he has a healthy, skeptical side. Not everything you think is true, so repeat for verification and analysis is imperative to any conclusion in this area. His experience in the field, his skepticism, and his desire to uncover the mysteries that surround us are indispensable assets to APRA. He brings genuine curiosity, humor, and passion to living science. The pursuit and discovery of the dark and undiscoverable. Being able to walk around in the dark with the various strengths my team members bring to the table is an absolute joy. I wouldn't trade this adventure for the world. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have Matthew Goldman.
Boy,
yay! I was like, from that introduction.
How about that? All right, thank you very much. Good show.
Who is that guy? Yeah, I'd like to meet him.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? Can you give me his number? That's fantastic.
Yeah. You bet. You want that over the open air?
Gosh, he sounds really interesting.
He does.
All of that from his Pornhub profile. Wow.
Yes, it's amazing.
Discovering the dark and unknowable.
We don't want to know about those fronts.
Fantastic. The lengths he will go to.
Well, welcome, Matt. Welcome. So why don't we just start from the very beginning? You said you grew up in a haunted house, but what was it that got you fascinated by the paranormal in the first place of wanting to even go into it? So I don't know if you'd like to talk about.
I'm just gonna cut through a lot of that, what is in that bio, and just let you know that my childhood was not the best.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time wishing I were somewhere else. And the result is that I would walk the cornfields of Virginia in the woods, and there were a lot of old buildings that were run down and falling apart and derelict that no one cared about. there was a lot of open space back then for a young kid to wander around in, and not a lot of people that concerned about, criminals picking children up,
Right.
Right.
It was the 70s, right? We didn't wear helmets on our bikes. Our parents basically gave us razor blades to go rolling around the house with,
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're going down the stairs, put on some roller skates. That was kind of the mantra of parenting in the 70s.
Be home by the time the street lights are on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Be home when the sun comes down. Yeah. So I had a lot of time on my own, and my first real, I had a lot of what I would consider positive experiences. I remember, I think my first experience as a small child was an intermittent invisible friend, which I think a lot of children have, but mine was a little peculiar. It gave me information that I probably wasn't supposed to know about the adults around me in different ways. Wow. But that kept me from being in the way, I guess. And one of my very first experiences coming up against something that really frightened me. Well, actually, the first experience was I was really, really young, and I woke up from a nightmare, and there were a bunch of eyes that I saw in the dark looking at me, and that freaked me out.
What kind of eyes was it? Were they like
just a bunch of eyes, like floating in midair, like as if I felt like there were a bunch of people looking at me, and I think that my mind painted that in the picture, right? I think that I sensed that there was something in the room with me, and then I filled in the gaps. My imagination filled in the gaps. I don't think it was pure imagination on my part.
Right.
But I was a little kid. One of my first experiences in a haunted location was a barn up the street from my house, and I had gone up into the upper part of the barn where you would drop hay down to feed the horses, and the animals. And it was falling apart, and I felt something buzz by my head, and I thought it was an insect, which, I certainly didn't want to be stung by a bee.
Yeah.
And it happened again and again, and I was looking around, and there were no insects, and I felt something push me. And then I realized that the sounds I was hearing were kind of like short electrical charges or something. It was energy whizzing by my head, and whatever was in there was pushing me out of the building. I think in hindsight, a 7-8-year-old kid wandering around by himself in a rundown building that's falling apart on the second floor where no one's going to find him is a pretty scary thing for anyone, and whatever was in there was doing me a favor by pushing me.
Right.
But
that did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to my teenage years. I left home when I was 13, and I was a gay kid, which back in 1983 at 13 was not a really good time for it. It's not a good time now, but it certainly wasn't a good time then. And I was very angry for obvious reasons, and didn't see any future for myself. And I was, having a lot of problems in the home. And so I was removed from the home and put in a mental institution. I was put in 3 of them in a row, and then subsequently moved to 2 boarding schools. And the experience was so sudden and such a big shock to my system that I had to believe there was something else going on in order to survive. So I had to believe that there was, I made a decision that there was a God, and that I was created the way I was, and that everyone else in the world was crazy, which is a pretty big decision for a 13-year-old to make.
Right.
So that's what saved my life. And from that point forward, I was able to interact with the world around me in a way that was truly magical. So I was outwardly seeking validation of this presence and spirituality and things in the world. And that's what became my trip, basically. Should I stop or continue?
No, just please.
Oh, please, yeah. This is very interesting.
So I was, when you have friendships in places like that, it's like family, because it's like clinging to an iceberg in the middle of a tornado. And there was this one girl I knew in boarding school when I was the second one I went to when I was 15, named Allison, and she was hands down the most wonderful, happy person I've ever met in my entire life. And we were kind of obsessed with what I just described, with death and is there an afterlife and all this stuff. And we would make the same promise to each other every day. We would sit on the same wall before school together. And, she went to school. I smoked pot and dropped acid and hung out in the woods all day. But,
Yeah, got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. But it was the 80s, and I was in a boarding school for troubled kids. So there you have it. But we made the same promise to each other every day, and that was that if one of us passed away before the other one, we would visit to prove there was an afterlife. Right. And we were very serious about this. We did this every morning for several years. And I left school, and I was it was a New Year's party that I was at, and it was late, and everybody was asleep in this the townhouse that we were in. The kids' parents, the teenagers' parents were gone, and I was sitting at the kitchen table. It was about 3 a.m, which we all know is a rather specific time for stuff
the witching hour.
Yeah. And I was sitting there reading what I think it was Illusions by Richard Bach, and I started hearing the sound of someone crying, or it was very breathy and far away, and it sounded like it was coming from the end of the table that I was sitting at, and like the head of the table, and there was no one else in the room, but it was so faint, and I was like, and every time I paid attention to it or I lifted my head up from the book, it would stop. And so I went over. I thought there was a vent in the floor, and I thought maybe someone in the house is trying not to be heard and is crying, and I have to find out who it is and comfort them. And so I went around the whole place, and everybody was asleep, and so I was very confused. And then I sat down and started reading again, and heard it again, and realizing that every time I paid attention to it, it would stop. I decided to not focus on it and continue reading. So this was a conscious effort of me pulling my chi or my focus away from this energy, right? So I was reading the book, and I heard it again, and then suddenly her name popped into my head, and I said it, and as soon as I said it, it was like a floodgate opened, and there was this tremendous rush of warm, loving, beautiful energy that was just entered me and was around me. It was like a cloud of just peace and comfort and love. I can't describe it any other way. And it was so intense that it changed the hue of the room around. Suddenly, the objects, the light seemed to be when you look at a penny in the bottom of a pool, right? And you're underwater and the light refracts off it a certain way. That's the way the objects in the room suddenly looked to me. Wow. And we had a conversation, which I can only describe as telepathic. And in the conversation, she told me clearly that she loved me very much, and she was grateful that she was able to keep her promise, that I would forget all about this because it was too much for me to really fathom. That it wasn't part of the reality I'm used to, and I was going to wake up and not remember it at all. And I told her she's fucking crazy. Oh, I'm sorry, I cursed.
That's all right.
Sorry about that. I told her she's crazy, and she said, no, you're going to forget it, but I'm going to make sure you remember, and I'm going to leave a piece of me with you, and you'll remember, and you'll always remember that this really happened. And then she told me that, and I'm going to tell you this message, and I tell people this message, but she said it was a message really for me, that nobody else was having that experience, so they probably wouldn't believe me. But she said that no matter what I think is happening in this world, no matter how weird or bad or crazy this world is, it's all going to be okay. Like, it really is. And the stuff that we are just ripping our hair out over is really a whole other thing. There's something huge going on that we're not seeing, and it is going to be okay. So then I told her goodnight and I went to bed. And you think I would want to drain every ounce out of this experience. I would want to, get in there and investigate, right? like ask her all these questions, or I don't know. But the fact is I felt incredibly loved. If there was a moment in my entire life where I felt like I was in the center of everything, and everything was just right and perfect, and I felt absolutely loved, it was that moment. And I felt like it was okay for me to say goodbye. And so I went to bed and I woke up and I completely forgot about it. I had no idea this had happened. And my friends were going downtown to get tattooed, and I was a bitch about it. I was just like, ink in your skin for the rest of your life, you're crazy, blah, 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 blah. And we get down there, and they're getting tattooed, and I'm walking around the store, and there's this, in the corner on the wall, there's this crazy little tattoo that you can get that was a stupid, right? This little elf gnome creature with a magic hat on under a tree, smoking out of a hookah with two little butterflies. It's just the stupidest thing. And for some reason, I had to have this tattoo. Like, I had to have it. Come hell or high water, I was going to get this tattoo. My friends threatened to leave me there, and I said, I will beg money on the street if I have to get this tattoo. So I got the tattoo, and a couple days later, I'm at home, and my phone rings, and it's my old art teacher from boarding school. Mm-hmm. She says, "Are you sitting down?" And as soon as she said that, every bit of that memory flooded into my head, all of it.
It was when you needed it. Mm-hmm.
It was intense. It was really intense. And I was shaken. And I said to her, "Oh my God, Allison's dead, isn't she?" And she said, "How did you know? Did Brian call you?" And I looked at the phone in my hand, because back then they had cords, and I hung up the phone. Yep. Like, it was all I could do was hang up the phone. It was just, I was so overwhelmed. I just hung up the phone. Like, I was like, I can't deal. Mm-hmm. And my life, honestly, has been filled with events just like this one. And it's because I seek them out, and I know that what we perceive is not the end game. This is just a part of everything. And there is an entire vast universe out there to explore. And ghost hunting is a part of that. It's a big part of that. I love it. So there you have it. There's the background. That's how I became what I am.
Awesome.
Very
Especially
interesting.
With so many amazing people in the paranormal field that have become family.
Yeah.
That's what I absolutely love.
Yeah, we're all a bit damaged.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
That is so true. Yes, that is so true.
So I'm right at home. Yeah.
Oh, you're amazing.
Now, Matt, Lisa Spunky Monkey Joppa says to tell you, hey, and she is here.
Hi, Lisa. I love you, girl.
I can't even talk now. I can't put in words. You just left me speechless. That was really, really awesome. But was A.P.R.A. your first group that you were in, or how did you kind of start getting into the group?
Okay, so
things like that.
Like I said, I've been on this extended spiritual trip, and
right.
My life has just been this like urban white kid vision quest, basically, and I had a series of events happen where I wound up bedridden, and I had a kind of awakening. Basically, I got off of drugs. I have a long history with alcoholism and drug addiction, and it runs in my family. And in order to get sober, I had to surrender in the same way I did when I was a little kid. I had to basically surrender my ego and start life with a new set of eyes, right? And so I wound up in a situation. My foot was busted up, and I was laying in bed, and I got online, and I was looking at videos that people had online of ghost hunting, groups and all this. And honestly, I'm really afraid for obvious reasons. Because of my background and who I am, I have been absolutely scarred by religious suppression, and
I understand
that. So I'm really, really careful about calling myself anything that a group is or joining any group. It's a big no-no for me. So I'm much more afraid of people than I am of ghosts.
Right. Me too.
And there's seriously, and the paranormal field is filled with all kinds of interesting folks, and not all of them are hinged tightly, And so while I was really attracted to it and I wanted to be a part of it, I also needed to keep people at arm's length, and so I didn't really I didn't go to anything until I saw Scott Grunwald doing the Stew online. He had this show. He's really, really funny guy. If you're not aware of Scott Grunwald, you're really, really missing something. Scott is a really special, talented person. And he had this comedy show that was absolutely crazy about the paranormal. And I was chatting, and this girl Jody's like, I was in the chat room, and this girl Jody's like, "Are you going to go to the Hornet?" And I'm like, "Go to the what?" And she's like, "Are you going to go to the investigation at the Hornet?" And I'm like, I just realized somebody I don't know is inviting me to do something I've never done with a bunch of people I've never met, and this guy Scott's going to be there. Fuck it, I'll go do it,
Yes.
And she was staying in Fresno, so I got a hotel room in Fresno, which is around about where Scott is, and I got to spend time with him, and we hit it off, and then I wound up joining the cast of his show, which was great because I could do comedy, meet people in these paranormal groups, and still keep them at arm's length and get to know everyone in the community.
Right.
This was really great for me, and I had a great time doing this show with Scott. And that's how I met Brandon and APRA, because they came on the show. And I instantly knew that there was something special about the ethical nature of what Brandon brings to an investigation and what APRA was doing. And I found that very appealing. So I'm like the Switzerland of paranormal investigators, because I would just go out with a bunch of different people and not belong to the group.
I did that.
And I went out with APRA, and we really gelled together, and eventually Brandon asked me to join the team, and it's been about a decade that I've been walking around in the dark with the guy, and he's become like a family member.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's
yeah,
great.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Just and especially when you're with a group that long and you trust these guys, and anything they say, if they say that all of a sudden something was shimmering in front of them, and those people, they're not going to make anything up, and that makes all the difference in the world. I
tell you, I've seen over the years a lot of infighting. There's a lot of like what seems like high school antics. From the low level, there's high school antics, and from the high level, there's like the Mark and Debbie Constantino. You know what I mean? So you have the potential for a whole range of stuff to occur, and I've seen groups break up and people talk shit about each other, and I've had no part of it, right? Like I don't participate in any of that. But one thing that I've come to understand is that we, for recreation almost, put ourselves in spaces where a lot of dark stuff has happened repeatedly. And we ask the atmosphere to reveal itself to us. And we are energetically exposed to that material repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't seem like a stretch that would lead people to feel negative and bring negativity into their lives.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's really a good point.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a stretch because, a person who is experiencing a psychic attack or something that has attached to them or this kind of a thing, I think it doesn't all usually present itself like, hi, I'm going to give you a brilliant EVP and here I am, I'm scary. I don't think that's the way it works. I think most of the time what happens is your life gets dark and your job sucks and your family starts to fight with you and you break up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend and nobody understands you and you wind up isolated and alone. That's what I think happens to people when dark energy is around them. And I don't think that by and large, most of the groups that I've been with take this into account and look out for each other.
Yeah, that's one thing I really, really try to do is when I don't hear from somebody, for a while in our group, make sure that, I reach out to them just to make sure that they're doing okay. And because, I can understand that, especially when somebody feels alone and isolated. And, I kind of agree with that. There are some times when all of a sudden I'll start going into a really dark place. And, not just, Ross's, room or anything like that, because it's a really dark place. But, I'll start feeling like that. And that's one thing. I sit down, take a deep breath, and say, okay, if there's anything negative around me, you need to get away from me. Especially when I have 500, really crappy things happen at the same time. It's like, okay, what's going on?
Right.
I was happy yesterday. Having this investigation. What's attached itself to me? You need to get away from me. I'm getting rid of all the negativity. I'm, trying to fill myself with positivity.
My belief system is that, it's not even that. You have an etheric body, right? You have an energetic body that we all do, that we carry with us. And it's not like everything's an attachment. It's most likely that some dark shit has gotten into your aura and you've taken in the energy, and it's that simple. It's not,
right.
You know what I mean? It's not like...
Well, how do you kind of get rid of it? How do you get it off of yourself?
I'll tell you the best way to change that. If you don't meditate and you don't have a spiritual practice is really great. If you're religious, a church is, and that's good for you. If that's where you identify your good mojo, whatever it is you do to do that, those are all good things. But action is a really good way to bring positivity into your sphere. So, and what I mean by that is giving of yourself. Really counterintuitive, especially when you feel negative, right? You feel like, oh, everybody's taking from me, so give. Like it's crazy and counterintuitive, but the natural defense of the empath is to give, not to hold on to stuff. So by raising the vibration of those around you, you do it for yourself. And it's a lot easier than sitting down and just doing it for yourself. So find someone in need, find someone that needs a pep talk, find someone that you can take out to lunch or dinner and tell them how important and wonderful they are. Do something wonderful for those around you, and your energy will change as a result of it. It's not only important, but it's very practical.
That's true. Like checking on people in my group that haven't been there for a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But don't stay there. Like, I would be inclined to go rescue the puppies from the mean, awful breeders or something, but don't stay there too long, because otherwise that particular darkness overcomes you as well.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
and one thing, people ask me all the time, how do you protect yourself in these environments? And I have a very simple answer, aside from all the stuff I just mentioned, and that is that I don't take it personally. And it seems like a very confusing statement, but it's so simple that it's confusing. So when we are in those environments and we're asking for something to speak to us, when I'm asking for something to speak to me, I have in the past had a tendency to think that I'm special, that I'm somehow more special than someone else who is not getting EVPs, that I am being, that I'm being communicated. Seriously, though, this is the crazy shit that goes on internally, right? Like, it happens to all of us. It's not just me, right?
Right. You're right.
Exactly. So I'm doing something and I'm super special because I'm in this environment and things are talking to me. That right there is a glue. That is that is a way into your aura. That ego. Mm-hmm. So I don't take it personally. And that really seals me up. That really protects me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, June, what are you going to do?
I don't know. No, just kidding. I seriously though, I really, sometimes you do get so caught up in yourself that you just, all of a sudden it's like,
I feel like I should apologize for talking so much, and then I realized that I'm being interviewed. So
exactly.
Yeah,
it's a show about and for you.
Exactly.
It's all about you and your ego. No,
right. My ego's telling me to be insecure. It's like, oh my God,
stop it.
Matt, you're so rude.
Stop it.
Not at all. But, we construct the shows to be cathartic for everyone involved.
That's true. So how did you, I first met Matt at Preston Castle, the Preston Castle, what is wrong with me? I can't talk.
It was that,
anyway.
The con, right?
You know what?
Yes.
We can't all be able to talk at the same time. So
that's okay. But, if I can form words, it would be so much better to interview people with,
Words are better. Yes, but not entirely necessary.
You're not catching this psychically?
Yeah, I need to do this remote. Was it remote viewing?
Let me psychically. Let me say I'm getting okay. Yeah, I understand. No, I'm not wearing any underwear.
I do. You would answer
I
that
do not have pictures. You're going to have to go to Pornhub. Sorry about that.
Yes, I already have it, Matt. What are you talking about? Sorry. Anyway, it's. I was going to ask you how you first got, introduced to the Preston Castle conference.
Well, I became aware of Preston Castle because Brandon and APRA had been there, and he had just said some fantastic things about the building. And then and Scott did some hosting there as well. So I wanted to go, but I didn't really get up there until APRA was invited to be there. I don't know if it was the show we did or... we filmed for Science Channel. No, it was Science Channel. So we were filming a backdoor pilot on unexplained files for Science Channel. And a backdoor pilot is basically a test for their audience to see, if this is a viable show idea, right? So we were going to get a good chunk of this unexplained files episode and investigate some places. And so we went up there and did... the McConaughey estate and the Argonaut Mine and Preston Castle, which are really great locations. And we had some very, very interesting things happen, none of which were interesting to the director of the reality series they were making.
So you didn't have any bricks or boards being thrown at your head?
We did not really, no.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to manufacture anything. And I think the stupidest thing I did was walk around with this device called an Eagle 2, right? So there was this device that they had gotten us that could measure carcinogens in the air, toxins and all that, which I actually am kind of fascinated by. It's not that stupid. It's actually pretty cool. But I didn't know how to use it, right? So I'm walking around with this thing that I don't know how to use on camera, and I felt like just the biggest tool. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not I'm not going to do this. And Godfrey, I was in like 2 seconds of the episode, and that's one of the things they put in there, which really sucks. But yeah, I mean, God's honest truth is they didn't like us because we weren't cooperative, because we weren't going to jump through those hoops. We didn't want to.
We're going to scream if you.
No, and what there's one thing that I love about APRA, it's our integrity.
Right.
It really is. You know, we just weren't going to do that stuff to be on TV.
Honestly, with you saying all that, it makes me feel better because, I did hear that one of your team members is going to be on the new Ghost Hunter show.
Oh, wow. Yes. That.
And, I did hear about that. But, that makes me feel a little better about it because honestly, when I heard that, it was kind of coming back, I was just like, oh God, what are they going to be doing this time? I just was very apprehensive, but with you saying these things, and I guess it's Brandon.
Yes,
it's going to be yes.
Brandon did get on the show, and absolutely deserves that kind of attention. And I am super, super excited about what's going to happen. There is an interesting balance when it comes to television, right? Because you have to provide a story. You have to entertain people. It's not like an industrial documentary that they're filming. Right. It's not an instructional video. That's not what they're filming. It's just not. You know what I mean? They're going into people's living rooms in a prime time slot, and they have to do something that's compelling. And
because if they did a real ghost hunt, people would be like,
well, here's the thing, though. It's not just. Am I talking over you too much? I'm sorry. Somebody sighed. I'm not.
Not at all. Not at all.
So here's the thing. I love a good ghost story. I don't see anything wrong with. I love horror movies. Like, I love this stuff.
Me too.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of Ari Aster. I love The Witch. I'm A24. How do you make so many good decisions? I don't know. But back to this. A perfect balance would be to tell a good ghost story, to tell a story that's compelling, and be able to combine that with real substance and depth and breakthrough research for people like us who are dying for that kind of content, right? Mm-hmm. And wrap it in a package with amazing storytelling. That would be fantastic. And there hasn't been a lot of that. There hasn't been. So the bar is not set very high, right? It's not.
No, it's really not. But that would be awesome.
But I can't fault people. I hear a lot of times, and it's not just me. Brandon has a huge bug up his ass about the schlock that's on TV, and I understand it. But I feel like that will always have its place, and that audience has their own space to go to. I don't think that is in any way competing with or taking up too much bandwidth for anyone who desires something with a little more depth and seriousness to it. I'll tell you what, I was on an episode paranormal. What's adventure? Yes, paranormal challenge. That's what it was.
Challenge.
Paranormal challenge, and I was on it with Scott Grunwald, who I do comedy with, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got on this show with Scott. We made up a name for a team, and we had another friend join us. We weren't an actual team. We'd never been out before. Everybody knows that we do stupid comedy, and that's what we did on the show. I ran down a hallway screaming because I thought it was funny. That's a typical thing for people to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
My big goal, I never thought I would get on a TV show or wind up in some sort of situation where the research I was doing was taken seriously. So it didn't really, at the time, it didn't matter to me, right? I was like, fuck it, this is fun. Mm. But my biggest goal during that shoot was to get on Talk Soup. I really wanted a clip on Soup. I so badly wanted to be on Talk Soup. That was the whole point of the show for me, and we did it. And there's a full clip of me and Scott.
Oh my gosh! Now I've got to look that up. I don't think I knew that.
It is really funny. So there you have it. But you know, I don't see all of this kind of wackiness taking up space for people who are absolutely serious about what's going on. I don't think it's competitive in any way. Yeah. And I am rooting for Brandon, absolutely. And I think this show is going to be fantastic. I mean, can you imagine like going through all these, like setting the tone for Ghost Hunters, right? And you're, as a producer, and you're like, I want to make something really great. And then a year or two into it, or 5 years into it, you're like, God damn it, if I knew then what I know now, if I had started this this other way, shit, what could this have been? Mm-hmm. So that's what I think. I'm hoping that's what this is. That they're like, you know what? Now let's implement all these things that we thought we should have done. You know,
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm waiting with.
Honestly, I did not like the old Ghost Hunters. It wasn't. I'm not like, oh, it's terrible. You know, it's a show that ran a long time. It brought the paranormal into the consciousness of America in a way that no other show had ever done. It was the first of its kind. You know, it's kind of easy to throw shit at it because there's nothing else like it. You know what I mean?
One thing I loved was, all the locations that they went to. It was just like, oh my gosh, I've got to go there.
How many of us wanted to do that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So they really kind of caused a movement.
Yes, they did.
And I'll tell you something else that not many people know. I know that those guys are for real, and I'll tell you why I know they're for real. My dad has a haunted house, not like a haunted house, but like a fun house, right? So he builds fun houses and mirror mazes and all this kind of stuff. And when I was 20 years old, I was working back in like 1993 or something. I was working there, and I found a card on the ground in the doorway when I was opening up the haunt. And this is right on the strip in Virginia Beach, right where the Atlantic Ocean is, right? Mm-hmm. And I found a business card for TAPS, for the Atlantic Paranormal Society. And I was so excited that I had found this business card that somebody had dropped on the ground right in the doorway of my dad's haunted house. And so I called right away. And I don't know who I talked to. I don't know if I talked to Jason or Grant. I'm not exactly sure who I talked to, but I had a rather long conversation with someone where I was very excited about what they do. And I wanted to come and work with them. And all I knew was Atlantic. I didn't know they were in Rhode Island. And the guy on the phone's like, you know what? I'm up in Rhode Island. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Virginia. He's like, dude, seriously. And I'm like, well, what if I move up there? He's like, are you kidding me? I was like, I was ready to move because I wanted to do this stuff so badly. And I was so excited to talk to this guy on the phone. And of course, like anybody else who meets me today and finds out what I do, I had to tell him a ghost story. You know, I probably told him the Allison story. You know, and we left it at that. He offered to he's like, oh, if you want to, be in touch and open a chapter or whatever. But I was a kid, and I was like, I don't know how to do this, and whatever, Right. But I know they're for real, and I know they're older than the show. I know they predate the show because I was on the phone with one of them in 1993.
Yeah, and so was Ross. Ross actually knew them before the show. So
fantastic.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for them. I mean, they've stuck to it, and they've had to walk through a lot of fire. Being in the national spotlight and keeping your senses is quite a balance. I'm actually, kind of impressed with these guys. So.
Well, that's really cool. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing it, just to see what they bring to the table. That's definitely the truth.
I'll tell you what, I am absolute, because look, you can't fuck with Elvis. Elvis will put a bullet in your theory, like right in a second. You know what I mean? Like that guy is like a walking encyclopedia. He's like the Steve Vai of the damn paranormal.
Oh,
he
cool.
really is. He is serious business, and it is an absolute joy to see my friend in the position he's in, and I cannot wait to see what happens.
So, are you guys going to have like a little watch party when the first episode comes
out? Yes.
I was going to say that's going to be awesome.
No, I am. I'm about to make a Facebook page for it.
Oh, fun!
People who are in or near Los Angeles, they can join APRA at the undisclosed location right now, and we're going to be watching the pre-show and the actual show. So it'll be at least 2 hours of their time, and it'll be good to see people show up and support.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
But what date is that?
The 21st.
21st. That's right. Okay.
Oh yeah, my birthday.
Oh, yay!
Oh, thank you.
It's an early birthday. Mm-hmm. So, actually, Russell from Preston Castle has something he'd like to ask. It's kind of a little bit long, so a little bit long here, but it says, there seems to be mounting evidence that some paranormal findings and or experiences can't be explained. And scientifically speaking, most of these experiences can't be scientifically recreated. Unfortunately, a lot of the paranormal field tends to be fringe and weird and can't be taken seriously. At what point do you think mainstream science researchers take the paranormal field with more legitimacy? What do we have to do as researchers, investigators, that can help lead to the path of legitimacy?
Interesting. So, I'm going to lead with this, with some of my favorite artists, like David Bowie and Mike Patton of Mr. Bungle, and creative artists, right? So what I admire most about these people, mostly famous people, Freddie Mercury and like the song Bohemian Rhapsody, right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So what I admire most, I thought about it, like what is it about these people that makes me so envious and that I want to know all about them, and I admire them. And it's that they have the singer from Radiohead, Tom York is another one, but they have the unique ability to bypass their ego and really make love to the muse. They have the ability to let go of that part of themselves that tells them that what they're doing is too stupid or not good enough, or, they have the ability to do it enough times so that they get good and they are touching the source, the magic source, and they are bringing that into the world. And that's what I admire about them. That's what they possess that makes them otherworldly to me. And I feel the answer to his question is in the same realm. This work needs to be important to me. It needs to be something that is important to me. And if I am really, really supercharged about what I'm doing, someone else will feel that fire. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I am not of the idea that I force feed people or get people to understand or make people behave or think a certain way. I am more of the you win people's hearts over by inviting them. You win people's. It's it's an attraction, not a promotion. And so I think the more that we do that, look, I mean, there are people out there who have invented engines that run on water, but which could be incredibly viable. Solar power is such a no-brainer. It has been for decades.
Yep.
So there are entire industries set up to keep innovation from happening. And
yes.
And I'm sure that to some degree
so many things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that to some degree that's happening in the sciences. But my direct thoughts on that is not to worry about it. Be like be like Freddie Mercury, man. Be like David Bowie. You know what I mean? But be that guy. Do you know Carl Jung? I remember in preparation for this interview, you're like, who are the people you look up to in the paranormal? And right off the bat, it was Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't even think of Carl Jung when they think about, but he was directly responsible for so much insightful work in psychiatry and psychology, right? So this guy used to attend seance. He did his dissertation in medical school on the paranormal. I don't know
Really?
if people. Yeah, I don't know if people are aware of this.
No, I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Especially
he used to attend seances. His cousin was a medium, and he did his entire dissertation on it. He has written countless books with spirit in mind. He was into astrology, the I Ching. The guy was like really heavily into this stuff, and he did it personally. His book, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, is all about an inner journey, which is, that obviously from what I told you about myself turns me the fuck on.
I'm sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
So, but he knew that all of this, he wouldn't be taken seriously by everybody. And so he did a great deal of separating his medical work from, but it's out there. It's out there to be found, So I really believe that if you're doing good work, it will attract people who want to see it.
Who want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that's really something. I'm going to have to look that up, actually. I don't think I've seen a lot of his paranormal.
Putting
It's
the
true.
link in the chat room right now, June.
Well, thank you.
Oh, did you find it? It's not hard to find.
No, not at all. Well, and it's one.
It's right
it's
there.
a start. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not hard to find. Yeah.
So, well, why don't you tell us about some of the places that you've investigated? Maybe some of your favorite places you've investigated.
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be a place that you've
why
done a
they're
lot
your
of
favorite.
places.
Yeah.
I mean, so there are places with really good stories. There are places where I've had events happen. But I'd have to say that my favorite place had to have been Linda Vista Hospital, and I'll tell you why. It's because I met a group of people from Boyle Heights Paranormal Project, and they extended an invitation to me to kind of to be a member of their team in spirit, to show up and investigate with them, and the arrangement that they had with the hospital was that because a lot of films shot there, a lot of film and TV, and so they would maintain the hospital, the premises. They would, paint or mop the floors and do these kinds of things to make sure that the place was okay. And in turn, they had complete access to this place that was really, really haunted and huge and intimidating, Mm-hmm. And I spent a good 3 years in there with virtually unlimited access. So I did get the chance to do repeat experiments in a place that I got to know. That's where I honed my skills. That's where I was able to discover that if I don't take it personally, it's not sticky, right? That's where I formed a lot of the solid kind of ideas I have about what I'm dealing with. And I had some pretty crazy experiences in there.
What are some things that happened?
I was doing a ghost tour in there, and I was following the group. It was about 30 people, which that in itself is an interesting thing because it kicks up activity, but people don't realize it's activity. You know it because you know the building and you know what sounds are supposed to occur. But a disembodied voice of a woman in the hallway behind you where there's nobody, the group doesn't get it. And everybody hears it, but it doesn't register.
I don't think
because it sounds like an everyday kind of, they don't get it. So I'm following this group to make sure that nobody is staying behind in one of the rooms or whatever. And I brought my friend Walter along and there was a T intersection on the first floor, which was the surgical section and everything. And they were going back down the main hallway and everybody had turned the corner and we were coming down the hallway and making the turn, and down the hallway that I was, as I was turning down the hallway, I could see down the rest of the hallway I had been walking, the other side of it. And I saw very clearly two white shoes, two bare legs, the bottom of a white skirt, go walking into a doorway, take a couple steps into this room down the hall. And it wasn't far down the hall either. And it was absolutely clear, like clear as day, solid, right? And I was like, first, I caught myself. I almost kept walking like it was perfectly normal to see, like it was something. I almost missed it. And then I went, oh my God, there's someone there. I need to get them. And then I realized, holy shit, that's all I saw. There was nothing else. There was no body attached to that.
When it dawned on you.
There was nothing there.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It was just the bottom of a white skirt and legs and shoes. And that's it. And solid, clear, solid. And I stopped and grabbed my friend's arm and I was like, holy shit, did you just see that? And my friend Walter said they were white shoes, and I went legs, and he said, and a skirt. And I'm like, oh my God, we both fucking saw that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Neat. Completely neat.
Yeah. That was the only one time I've seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen stuff.
I was going to say, have you seen, is that, you're the closest to a full-bodied apparition, but you saw
yeah, it is.
A leg-bodied.
I have been in some crazy situations, but that's the first time and last time I've seen something like that.
Wow. And what about, you said you've seen shadow people before too?
I have, but more importantly, there are other things that are more interesting.
Right. Well, before we go on to something else, what personally do you think a shadow person is? There's been all this debate on there, and I was wondering what your take on the shadow person was.
I think that so this world that we live in is really vast, and it has depth to it, and it has color and sound, and different people with different ways of thinking, and animals and plants and all kinds of different species, large and small, and planets. Like, it's a huge place, right?
Right. You're right.
And we look at this phenomena we're experiencing, and we have a very limited amount of terms for it. Ghost or spirit, shadow person, haunted, right? It's these kinds of ideas that provide a painting of sorts that we use to comprehend what we're experiencing. And sometimes it's through a religious filter or a spiritualist filter, but there are some common themes, and there are phenomena that you can capture that seem to support some of these themes, right? But that picture is two-dimensional. It really doesn't have much more depth to it. And so I think a shadow person is the manifestation of a certain type of energy. It's usually an intelligent energy, it seems, and it usually has some power to it. But that's all I know about it from first-hand experience. I can't tell you what it is. So I have a paper analogy when I talk about the paranormal, right? So if I have a flat sheet of paper, which is two-dimensional, and I put my fingers underneath it and push it so it raises, what you will see is a dark spot right under the top of the paper, and you'll know it's a hand pushing that up, right? You'll be like, oh, there's a hand pushing the center of the paper up. If you see that happen again, we automatically will assume there's a hand pushing it up. But it could be anything underneath that fucking piece of paper. But that's just how the paper behaves when something's pushing on it. So I really can't tell you what's there, but my intuition tells me there is a vast world of phenomena that we're barely scratching the surface of.
I agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. Quite true. Now, you do the circuit, the different conventions and things, doing a lecture for APRA, and you yourself, I guess. Could you? Well,
I used to go with Brandon, and I love these conventions. Now that Brandon is obviously busy, the mantle has fallen on me, and I gladly accept it.
Yeah.
It's been,
Good.
It's been an interesting. I'm thrilled to do it, but I feel like a kid in a candy store. I have so much I want to talk about, and only so much time, and I'm still gauging what I can really get away with, right? With it all.
I understand that.
So, but it's really great, and I have I have the goods. I have the APRA goods to share with people, and I'm super jazzed and honored to be in that position. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Would you care to share a little bit of it, or at least kind of give us an overview of what you do the lectures on?
Well, APRA was founded in 2006 by Brendan Alvis, who at a young age lost two of his older brothers, one to cancer and the other to suicide.
Oh, crap.
And that's the series of events that sent him into the unknown. And you've already heard what happened to me. So he founded APRA to solely investigate historical locations. And since its inception, APRA has investigated over 100 historical landmarks through the United States. And we work with historical societies, state parks, city governments, and we've raised tens of thousands of dollars for historical restorations through our research and events.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is very important to us and to the group. And we started out this way. For me personally, once again, I'm more afraid of people than I am of ghosts. And, when you think about it, honestly, this phenomena, if the stone tape theory, that if we're able to leave emotional imprints on an area, it is the people that are causing it. That's really the bottom line. The bottom line is that our behavior is what causes hauntings to occur, right?
Right.
So once again, for me, this is a message that we have a direct effect on the world around us, and we need to change our behavior. But I digress. So if I go into a house and it's haunted, and there are children present, and there's also mental illness in the parents, and I'm like, and they are screaming demon, and I'm there and validate that there's something happening, I'm really not helping. I'm just exacerbating a situation. And I don't have tools necessary to deal with that. I don't have a budget. I'm doing this all on my own. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the resources at my fingertips to provide for these people. If this was all I did and I had a TV budget, I would be able to call people up and get these people help. But I'm not in that position, So I don't, in my opinion, I don't really have a lot of business. I have to really spend a lot of time vetting someone before I go into a home. So we mostly have concentrated on institutional buildings and historical locations. Brandon has a deep love of history, and it's been great. And we've raised, we've hosted a series of fundraising events at the Meek and McConaughey Estates up in Hayward. The last time we did it, we raised over $6,000 in 2 nights for these historical societies. And because of this work, we have been given access to places that usually are closed to other people. So, the philosophy is that by giving, you receive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Building goodwill.
I also want to add that these events, these fundraising events, were all done on our own dime. We never took a penny for any of this. All of the proceeds went to this historical societies. We paid for our own hotel rooms.
That's fantastic.
Really great. Yeah.
So we also did an event, one event called A Night at the APRA, and it was at the Glen Tavern Inn. And that was a sold-out event, and we sold out a bunch of the rooms, and we had speakers, and we had a formal dinner, we had a dress-up formal dinner, and like a investigation around the hotel, which is a very haunted location, and it was a really great success, and I'm looking forward to bringing those back again really soon. That's another thing that I enjoy. We are the only paranormal team I know that has a world-renowned super scientist, Dr. Harry Clore. He has a double doctorate he received simultaneously at Purdue University. and he works with JPL, the military, NASA. He was one of the founders of Singularity University and the chief science officer of A.P.R.A Foundation. He's written for Star Trek. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and he's really brilliant kind of guy. And he's also equally, this goes back to Russell's question, right? So he's absolutely, and here's the thing about, Carl Jung writes about synchronicity too. This is a big reoccurring theme in Jung's work, that synchronicity is there to tell people when things are important, like to pay attention, and it's important to notice synchronicity in your life. So I was friends with Harry. I became friends with, because I make a habit of surrounding myself with the most interesting fucking people I can meet, right? So,
yes, I understand that.
I met Harry on a plane and immediately got involved in some philosophical discussion with him and became best friends.
Cool.
And yeah, we were sitting next to each other on a plane and walked off best friends. And so I knew he would find this interesting, and I took it to him as a show idea, because originally I was approaching him as a producer. And because I wanted to get backing for us to, once again, what's the dream? To get money to be able to travel the world and do this with your best friends. Like, how cool is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, that's very cool.
Right. And I wasn't taking it to, because we wanted complete control. So I naturally am going after my friends, and I took it to Harry. I knew he'd find it interesting. And the story starts about how, APRA, right off the bat, about Brandon losing a brother to suicide and a brother to cancer. And that's why he founded the organization. And right there, Harry stopped. It was just the first sentence of my presentation to him. He stopped. And he was really quiet. And I thought I had done fucked up. And he looked at me and he goes, Are you guys serious? Are you playing me? And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
He's like, is this like a joke? And I'm like, no, Harry, it's not a joke. And he's like, I lost both brothers to suicide and cancer.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And from that moment forward, he's signed, sealed, delivered member of our team. So that's just the way things happen. Isn't
that something, how things work out that way?
Yeah.
It's like, here's Matt. He, is on a plane. He sits next to this amazing, scientist, and I am on a plane. I sit next to the homeless man that got enough money.
Oh, come on. Stop it. I've had that's not a direct judgment on you. It's not like it's like, you suck. I'm putting you next to this guy.
I'm joking. Totally joking.
You know what? I go to the emergency room and get kept overnight for observation and get next to the 90-year-old lady who used to be in television, and it's just interesting as all get out.
Okay,
yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
But once again, right? It's the ego that does this to us. It's the ego.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's telling you the secret. So what you're doing is listening to your ego, not the situation. And if you are able to put down the ego, lay it down on the floor, and pay attention to the world around you, you will find that there is a fucking parade going on filled with interesting people.
Listen to who Wendy. She had to go to the hospital this last weekend with some complications of something that happened, and listen to who she was like in the hospital room with, which is so cool.
Yeah. I'm there in my bed, and it's about it must have been about 9:30.
I thought you were making this up.
No, that's dead serious. Yeah, this little old lady, 90 years old, I find out, gets rolled by me, and she goes to the other bed, and they put her in there. And as she's rolling by, she goes, "Well, honey, I sure feel bad for you. You're going to have to listen to me coughing all night." And I said, "Oh, that's all right. You'll have to listen to me snoring all night." And she comes right back with, "Nope, I left my hearing aids at home. I'm one up on you." And it just, the conversation went all night long. Basically, they're not going to let you sleep anyway, so why not? And she was a public figure on public television back in the early 70s. She was Mother Nature on Kansas City's Channel 41, and didn't really remember her, but then again, I kind of did. But she did the puppet people and worked with this guy who, of course, was later on a pedophile, but whatever. But it was so neat talking to this lady.
Talk about that part.
Right. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Synchronicity. See?
Yeah.
Isn't
yes.
that so cool,
yes.
though? It's like those great, Well, I think about that, too.
Oh, wait, is that the end of the story?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, she's
Yeah.
she's definitely going to try to listen when she gets over her bronchitis and things. But she was just so neat to talk to. But I could have been the wicked bitch of the West and not said a word to her when she came in, and I could have. I made the best of the situation,
and you
and
missed out.
so glad I
missed
am.
out on that amazing conversation and find out who she is. And I really remember her. It's like when I was, I remember that. It's like I can see it in my head a little bit. It's just like I'm gonna have to go look her up though.
Yep, definitely.
That's fantastic. It really
I
is.
just love stories like that.
Yeah. I mean,
But, I was thinking that too. If I hadn't have met this one guy at, I was kind of traveling around to these different groups trying to find, I was just basically, I was kind of doing what you did for a while, is just going to these different groups and investigating with different groups and all this other stuff. And if I hadn't met this one guy that said, hey, why don't you come with me and help me start our own group? We know this other guy. So my old friend Todd, I kind of helped him start his own group, and he's the one that introduced me to Ross. Mm-hmm. And I never, if I hadn't, if I had just looked at this other guy and said, I don't want anything to do with you, my life would be, so different right now. Mm-hmm. So,
I see, since I've befriended you guys, I see all these pictures that you post from all these different places, and you guys seem to really, really live a colorful life. It just really is. No, I'm not kidding. It's really great.
It's just been amazing. Just like I said, who knows what I'd be right now if I hadn't trusted that weird little guy that said, come with me. I'm like, okay. There's going to be ghosts and food. Okay. I'm right there.
Fantastic.
Or if I hadn't sat next to this lovely young lady when we were freshmen in high school, I believe it was psychology class, but I could be wrong on that. And we struck up a conversation, and friends now talking to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we lost touch for years and years and years.
Yep.
And then I can't remember, how did we...
It was Facebook. Maybe Stefan?
Maybe. I can't remember. That's senility.
Diabetic dementia strikes again.
We'll just make up our own story.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But that's awesome.
It may or may not be true, but we're sticking to it.
Yes, exactly. I love hearing stories like that, though. It's just, how things just work out, and you're like, wow. And you start thinking about the one incident that led you to this path and think, wow, if I hadn't followed that, who knows what I'd be doing right now.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, in chat room, we have a Kim Kartinen. Is there any place in Kern County he would like to investigate?
Yes. Meaning me, or is he asking me?
You. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Should I tell him where he wants to investigate? Because I could make up some shit right now.
Yeah, we could ask the dog, but he's not going to talk.
You
never know.
In Kern County that I want to investigate?
Yes.
Let me think. Kern County.
I'm not sure.
You know what? Look, buddy, you tell me. You tell me what's in Kern County.
Yeah. Kim, do you know any place in Kern County that...
that Fresno's in Kern County, right? Is Clovis?
I have no idea.
All right, so...
There's a little bit of a lag, so she might be...
Right.
Yeah, I believe that... that Clovis is there. I was able to investigate, and it's no longer there, a place called Wolf Manor. And
Bakersfield.
Oh, Bakersfield. Oh, wait, you know what? Kern County. It's Kings County. No, Kings County is not Kern County. All right. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Why don't you tell me about Kern County?
So.
Okay, nope. I think that's not nope. She's not going to tell you. I think that was nope to the last one.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, while we hear from Kim, can you tell us some of like funny stories of investigations that you've had? Something funny that's happened or
something funny. All right. Well, this is a little embarrassing, but
yeah, I love embarrassing.
We're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you.
So we're
the other way, Wendy. The other way.
Oh, shoot! I did it again.
So we were investigating the Kings County Bastille, which is a very intimidating stone building with quite a history, and it is inch for inch one of the most freaky haunted places I've ever been in, and unsettling in many ways. And I thought I would strap my big boy boots on and do an interesting experiment. And I'd seen this kind of weird experiment with light on someone's eyes with ping pong balls, and the red light would cause something. And I decided to meditate in that kind of space, blind, I couldn't see anything but this red light, and then invite whatever it was to either interact with me. And so what I did was I sat in a chair, and there was a camera on me, and I proceeded to talk about any sensation or image in my mind or any change in the atmosphere or anything that I sensed. And I just allowed myself to freely kind of just speak whatever I felt or thought, And I did this for quite some time. And I thought, there was in Clovis, there's this one room that there was something really bad in. There was something really bad, and every time we went into this room, it smelled like rotting flesh, right? Like it smelled like something had died in there, like a dead animal or something. And it may have been, but it can't be a dead animal every time you go in there months after months, right? So and it would kind of come up as you were in there. And I associated it with the activity in the building. I thought that this room was unique for that reason and really unsettling, right? Mm-hmm. So while I was sitting in the chair in this Bastille, I smelled something similar. I smelled something that was unpleasant. And so there's a videotape of me saying, I'm smelling something sweet but foul. And the reality is just before I say that, I'm listening to white noise in my ears, so I can't hear anything. Michael crosses the field of vision in the camera and farts. And I had no idea that that's what he did. Mm-hmm. And I'm having this paranormal moment, this serious moment, engaging with his fart, which is just humiliating in such a special way.
Is anyone there? Can you tell me your name?
Yes. These are the kind of intimate moments you share with your brothers on an investigation that never make the light of day. So you got a real gem there. That's something that internally we laugh about hysterically.
That's pretty awesome.
Sweet but
the
foul.
Ghosts of meals past. Yes.
Exactly.
I like that. Ghosts of meals past.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been on an investigation that, you've been like scared?
Yeah, I have. Absolutely. I think that's a very healthy response.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
There's different versions of scared, right? There's the hypersensitive, adrenaline-inducing, I know I'm hearing something, where is it coming from? Like that kind of, I don't know if I would call that kind of scared. And then there's the flat out like dread that there's something terrible around you,
that's trying to trigger your fight or flight reactions.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I was in Linda Vista Hospital with Jeremy Burney, and we were coming down the hall once again in the first floor area, which was the most haunted area of the building. And we heard someone shuffling in a room down the hallway. We could hear what sounded like footsteps. And you know how when you're in a location and you hear something shifting weight on a floor, you can hear that kind of light almost shuffling a paper a little bit, like somebody was picking. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's a common kind of thing that happens. I'm not sure what that is, but it's a thing, right? It really happens. It was coming. That kind of stuff was coming out of this room, and so we're creeping down the hallway, and I got a little stupid. I got a little cocky with it. I started, I was like, "So this is all you're gonna do?" Like I never behaved this way ever. In fact, it's antithetical to the ethos of APRA to behave in this manner. So I apologize in advance, but. I was like, so what do blah, blah, blah. And once again, I'd been in this building for almost 3 years. I felt, you know what I mean? An ownership. I felt entitled. And, once again, my ego. Now there's my ego involved, right? It's just stupid. So I'm like, what are you going to do? Whatever. And then the noises stopped entirely. And we're like right across the hallway from this open doorway. And it's pitch black in the doorway. And I could just feel both of us. Could just feel this just really dark shit, it just felt really serious. And we're literally almost up against the wall on the other side of the hallway. And I opened my mouth to pop off something else. And as soon as I started to say something, I heard what I can only describe as a scratching sound really fast from the top of the wall right by our heads all the way down by our heads. Like multiple points of contact scratching the wall. Followed by, and this is going to sound a little movie-esque,
that's okay.
Followed by what sounded like a wet guttural growl right in my ear, like something right next to my head. And
the werewolf sharpening its claws right behind you and then growling.
I am not shitting you. This actually happened. And Jeremy and I got out of there. I've never been more scared in my fucking life. Wow. Like I'd never had anything. I've never before or since had anything like that happen. And we were almost all the way down the hallway before I realized that I had his arm in a death grip. Like I was grabbing his arm. And Power walked out of there, which is also weird. We instinctually didn't run from the thing. We kind of walked as fast as we fucking could.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I don't know what that was about. I feel like if we ran, it was just a sticky thing. It would have been giving in to something,
becoming absolute prey at that point.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We kept our energy intact, but moved as quickly as we could. Mm-hmm. It was instinctual. It wasn't something we thought about or discussed. We both behaved in the same way. So that's probably the scariest thing. But the most frightening thing. Okay, so that's scary, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Scary in the moment, boo scary.
Right.
But the most unsettling, frightening thing that's ever happened to me happened once again in Kings County, Bastille, and we were in there for 2 nights, and it's a small place, and we've been walking around and investigating multiple times in each room, all of us, and we're walking by this one room where this kitchen area was, and I said to Brandon, "Have you been in that room?" "I haven't been in that room." And he's like, "No." And I asked Michael, and no one had been in that room. And I'm like, "What?" And I realized we were avoiding the room, just naturally not going in the room. And I said, "Well, we need to go in there, So we walk into the room, and we're in there for 5 or 10 minutes, and I start to feel really tired, and I crouch down, and Brandon's recording me on a video camera, night vision camera, and I crouch down I'm sitting on my heels, kind of on the floor, kneeling down, And then the temperature dropped really low. It dropped about 10 degrees, and I could feel it. And Brandon's like, you know what, we're not getting, I'm like trying to get EVPs. We're not getting anything. Nothing's really happening. And Brandon's like, I'm tired. I'm like, yeah. He says, you know what, let's just call it a night. Let's just, go. And so we went back to Brandon's house, and I'm in the guest bed. And I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I almost fell face flat on the floor. And it was because I had zero energy, I had zero strength at all. Mm-hmm. Like gravity was a bitch. Like I felt the weight of my body. It was crazy. And I had to huff and puff my way just to go to the bathroom and I was crazy. And then I got sick as fuck for like 2 weeks.
Wow. And
Brandon experienced a little bit of that as well. Not quite as severe as I did. He didn't get sick. He experienced the weakness. Now, I'll tell you why this is absolutely frightening to me. Because whatever in that room was not only inhuman, it was parasitic. It didn't warn us. It wasn't like, hey, here's an EVP, or that. It wasn't a tourist attraction. It knew what it wanted to do, and it went right to work without us knowing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. And that, to me, is very disturbing. I've never, ever experienced anything like that in any other... And I've been on lots of investigations. Mm-hmm. But there's something unique to that space that I don't know what it is. And that's what happened.
Wow.
Goodness. Now, is there any place you've been that you would not go back to? Willingly, anyway.
I have to think about that.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not
good.
Yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. Yeah. Not yet.
No.
I mean, it would have to be a place where somebody got hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
It would have to be a place where
that was not safe.
Where people
physically.
Are crazy, and exactly. I'll tell you, I don't particularly want to spend time at the Glen Tavern Inn. That's a place that I am not interested in.
Where's that at?
It's in Santa Paula. It's a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong, and it's absolutely fine to go there and to investigate there. But I've spent a lot of time in that building, and I'm not ready to disclose the why. I shouldn't have brought it up.
Okay. We'll just...
Sorry.
Erase that from your memories. Yeah.
Right. Now leave us hanging there, but that's okay.
I'm afraid that's the end of that puppet show. So.
Okay. we will flip those strings. So now, did I see that you did you go into Greyfriars Bobby in Scotland?
No.
Or did I just see something? Okay, or maybe I dreamed it.
Maybe
it was that dream I had.
That. Maybe I'm going
walking through.
Yeah, I'll ask you what happened. What happened to me? Tell me.
Yeah, that would be awesome. No, I was thinking I saw that, and then I realized I don't think that was. I think that was just something. Never mind. Yeah. Erase that too. Just please.
From one of the pictures that I took when I put into that trailer for your show tonight, it looked like there was a mining accident, and
the Argonaut mine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What happened there? And have you investigated there?
Yeah. So the Argonaut mine disaster, and we did an episode, a YouTube episode. It was these episodes, by the way, are mostly Brandon, who is a fucking genius.
Okay.
But the Argonaut, no, seriously, and I field produce, and I occasionally sit in the editing bay with him and make suggestions, but he is really the genius behind the wheel of any of this stuff. But the Argonaut mine disaster, I'm trying to pull it up because I don't remember all the details, but it happened. It was a fire in the mine that killed about 42 miners, mm-hmm. and it was one of the worst accidents of the day back in 1922. It affected everyone in the town of Jackson and the adjacent area. and it was unnecessary. And it was actually 47 miners, I'm sorry, that died. They found things written on the walls by people who were dying, you know,
That's heartbreaking.
There's a series of exhaust fans that are supposed to work in a situation like that. They're supposed to draw the fumes, the toxic fumes, out of the mine, and they, for some reason, were installed the wrong way.
Somebody saving money and not caring.
It actually fed the fire. So we investigated the mine. Unfortunately, there's not a lot there to investigate. It's sealed up, and there's only, you know, like the surface grounds pretty much, and there is a little bit of area you can go into. But I'll tell you something really interesting that did not make it into the Science Channel of the Unexplained Files episode, because we did that investigation, and a big part of that was there was an old newspaper building that is there, and they were claiming to have sounds happen, and it was in a corner basement room where, you know, they kept hearing these sounds and all this stuff. So we naturally were focusing on the room, but we went into other areas of the building and we were investigating. We spent the night there, and it occurred to me that all of the reports from the different people who work in the building, because this was it looked like a house, right, that they were in. And all the reports were that they were hearing noises in the building when they were in this one room. So my theory was that room was what was haunted, not the other places that they were hearing the noises or coming from. That while they were in the room, they were subject to something that was happening in that room, you know. And I asked the next day if there was something special about that room. So, you know, is there something about, I know you're telling me that there are noises in other parts of the building, but honestly, the only time people hear these noises is when they're all in the same room, you know? So is there something special about this room? And they said, yes, in fact, that room there used to be another structure, another home on this property. And that room is the only place that is left from the old house. Like, that is the part of the living quarters of this old house that was the foreman of the mine's house that when the mine burned. And so it occurred to me that one room in this building was where this man paced the floor and had to deal with the guilt and agony of 47 men dying under his watch.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
And, so that was a really interesting find. It's one of the most unique kind of finds that I've had. Of course, they weren't interested in putting that in the episode either. So whatever.
But why?
I wonder why. Yeah, that was such it's such a heart-rendering,
Yeah, but listen, we love history, and we did a really good comprehensive story on it. It's on YouTube if you want to go to the APRA channel. And you can find...
it's on Amazon Prime, too, right?
The Argonaut mine disaster that, yeah. Yeah.
Yep, got him. I at least got the Amazon Prime link in there, so that works.
Cool.
Is that Brandon's? It's his show was called A.P.R.A, right? So that was the A.P.R.A show. And it is the Argonaut mine disaster by the A.P.R.A. A.P.R.A is EPHEMERA. And I will see if I can message someone the link or whatever. Dun, 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 dun.
Should I play the crickets in the background?
Right? Exactly. In the meantime,
yes.
Yeah. So, June, I will send this to you, and you feel free to distribute this at your leisure.
At my leisure, I will do that. But, well, we are getting close to the end. I was going to say, Matt, can you give everybody some, where you can be found, what your next project is, anything else you would like to say?
You can find me at hold on a second.
That's okay. He's still trying to find himself.
My pants down, lady.
I'm sorry.
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as Matthew Works. So Facebook.com/Matthew Works. Matthew Works on Instagram and Matthew Works on Twitter. Works is spelled with an E. Yes, there are 2 W's in Matthew Works. So MATTHWWERKS. And you can find our Facebook page, APRA Paranormal. So Facebook.com/APRA Paranormal. You can find us online and our evidence online at APRAParanormal.com. That's APRA Paranormal.com. We have a lot of goodies for you guys to peruse through, information about the team. And I would suggest that you follow Brandon Alvis on Twitter and on Instagram. He is about to embark on an amazing journey. I am really, really excited that this is what is happening. And I would encourage anyone to, it's Facebook.com/Brandon J. Alvis. This is his Facebook page. I do have an announcement, kind of.
Yes.
A little announcement that it's the press release is about to come out, but you're probably the first people to hear it. We have 2 new team members joining the organization that I'm extremely excited about. And maybe I'll tell you their names.
Can't remember, huh?
No, that's not it. I'm wrestling with, like, do I do this? Or I should wait for the press release. Is what
How much trouble will I? Yeah.
I will. I don't know if So Olivia Pipala and Johnny Matuk are joining our organization, and they each bring a skill set with them that is an undeniable asset to the team. Their integrity is second to none, and I'm absolutely thrilled and excited to be working with them and for the next chapter of the evolution of APRA and what we're up to. So,
what's next for you, Matt? I mean, do you have anything brewing?
I always have things brewing.
I know. It's like you have a lot of things brewing.
I'm a brewer. I've been fascinated with a character named Damien Eccles lately. I've been studying a lot of his work. He is of the Hermetic ilk and does a lot of energy work and meditation, and I've been discussing possibly monitoring the space around him while he works. That's something I'm fascinated by. He is just a historical wizard when it comes to all things esoteric, occultish, and when it comes to Kabbalah, the Sumerians, Egypt, yada yada yada. So I am fascinated with this guy. Incidentally, yes, this is the same Damien Eccles that was involved with the whole West Memphis 3 event, the Paradise Lost trilogy on HBO, who spent 19 years on death row, most of that in solitary. And the way he survived that was by meditation, by meditating and spiritual work, which is fascinating. Very eloquent, well-spoken, intelligent person who has survived such an ordeal. So that's something I'm up to. I'm doing a lot of writing. I have a great job as a commercial driver in the film industry. I did some American Horror Story stuff, which was great. And I don't know, man, life is good. And I can't wait to get out. This is all, icing on the cake. I really, really am excited about what's going to happen as a result of Ghost Hunters and the potential exposure the team is going to get. And I am really, really battening down the hatches to prepare to
I bet so.
gauge.
I bet so.
You know what I mean? It's like someone has put rocket fuel in the engine, and I'm ready.
Awesome.
I'm fucking ready. You know what I mean?
I do know. And I'm going to be getting a taste of that pretty soon myself. So
I'm over here doing push-ups. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I'm ready for APRA to hit the road, for us to all get out and to really, really do some good work.
Yeah, and when you're going to come up here to Seattle sometime?
Yeah, well, I hope so. Isn't there a paranormal convention up there or something? There has to be something going on.
Maybe one of these days there probably will be.
Well, yeah, head east. Come to Kansas City. We've got all kinds of fun stuff.
I would love to come to Kansas City.
Yeah, there's some really cool places there too.
I bet there are.
Winery, and there's so many places.
I bet there are. Well, Wendy, it's good to make a new friend. So.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Now, Kim in the chat room is asking, is that one of Damien's pieces that Matt is holding in the pick?
It absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely is. It's called the Tree of Life. And it is the original. He sold prints of it, which I own. I bought one of the prints, one of the numbered prints, 8 months before the original. But I went to a lecture that he was giving, and I was so moved by listening to him. And I'm absolutely convinced that he is dead serious. This is no bullshit, the journey he's on. And he's a very, very unique and enlightened character, and because of that, I really wanted to the original, and they were nice. Him and his wife Lori were nice enough to come up with a payment plan for me, and I have his original piece hanging in my living room, and it's fascinating. Awesome. Yeah. Yep.
Well,
yeah.
Matt,
very cool.
Thank you so much for being on our show tonight.
Thank you for having me. This has been a really wonderful conversation. You guys are just terrific, and I'm just grateful that I got to spend time with you and everybody listening.
That I met you. And
yes.
Awesome.
You're welcome back anytime. Just give us a holler.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Please.
Sure.
Very sweet.
Any of the conferences.
I'm a super friendly guy. Anybody listening wants to hit me up on my Facebook page or send me a message. I'm completely available.
The first time I met him, he was hugging me all over the place. So, yes, he is amazing.
If you have anything going on you want to talk about, if you have any paranormal things that are happening you want to ask me about, you can always email APRA at info@apra.com, apraparanormal.com. or through our Facebook page or any of those other outlets. We're all very accessible.
Awesome. Oh, so Wendy, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask Matt before he goes off into the sunset? I think the sunset has set out there now.
Here it definitely has, yes.
Yes. Well, it's sad, but, it's starting to get darker earlier now.
Yes,
but,
it is. Kids have gone back to school.
Because I like the dark.
It's just harder to see in these days.
Yeah, I know.
No, now next week right at this time we don't have a guest. We were going to Becky Ray was going to come on she has Ghosts a Go-Go, an outfit here in Kansas City, and
I love that. Ghosts a Go-Go.
Yes, but she has a previous commitment and couldn't make it, so
okay.
But we'll have somebody real quick. I have no doubts about that one.
Awesome.
That's about all I've got.
Well, it sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So, Wendy, what are you going to take us out with?
How about Do Your Worst by the Rival Sons?
Oh, I love that.
All right. Everybody have a great, safe, happy weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Matt, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Most of all, yes. All right.
stranger coming up the hill. If you don't recognize him, I know your preacher will. Got a voice like sugar, sugar in your tea, and he could sing you in a song now, sing it sweeter than me. Blind your eyes, steal your tongue. Take it when you're old, but it locks on you. Oh my baby, devil's gonna get you if I don't first. Take my body and do yours. Oh my baby, devil's gonna get you if I don't first. Take my body and do yours. Blind your eyes, steal your tongue, get you when you're old now, but it locks on you. Oh my baby, devil's gonna get you if I don't first. Take my body and do yours. Oh my baby, devil's gonna get you if I don't first. Take my body and do yours.
That's all, folks.